Welcome to Beyond the Press Release, a production of Gore Call, in which we take the time to speak with small cap executives after they put out important news. For those of you who believe in the future of renewable energy, it's unstoppable. It's a paradigm shift that is happening and it's going to be worth trillions. And specifically, you believe in the future of uranium and lithium. You're going to love this interview with Alex Schlenman, President and CEO at Azincourt, trades in Canada, AAZ, for friends in the US, AZURF. For those who are new to the story or new to uranium and new to the whole space, let's talk a little bit about that. After a decade in a slump, uranium prices are now on the rise. They're being fueled by a massive global shift in support for nuclear energy, which subsequently is creating a rise in demand. But this is uranium's third bull market since 1968, and it still has a long way to go due to supply struggling to keep up after a decade of underinvestment. Why? Due to low prices, right? How do you solve a problem? Low prices solves a problem. In fact, Sprott Asset Management CEOs Johnson Piagla said that unless metal prices get to 75, uranium prices get to 75 to $100 pound range, there's going to be a supply shortage in uranium. All right. This is where Azincourt comes in. They're developing critical energy, alternative energy products, and they're focused on two core projects in the Athabasca Basin of Saskatchewan, where they're exploring for uranium, and either one is capable of delivering Canada's next uranium discovery. And the company's got cash in the bank to back that up. In addition, in order not to be a one-trick pony, the company has also announced an option on a great lithium project that comes with fantastic pedigree. So they've got both sides of Canada covered, and they got two of the hottest metals covered. Let's talk about it. Alex, welcome back, my friend.
Thank you, George. Great intro. Always a pleasure to be with you.
Let's talk about the uranium side first, because obviously your East Preston project is the one that's got all the attention, led to you raising $10 million, right? Last year, you hit hematite. Nice hit last year. Bring us up to speed now as to what we can expect in 2023.
Sure, great. Thank you for that. The last year, obviously, the success was centered on the hematite alteration packages that we drilled into. We found uranium enrichment in there. So evidence that uranium moved through the hematite. That's a big deal. It's not as easy. It's not an easy thing to do to explore for uranium. And for us, our VP exploration, Trevor Perkins, who's made some pretty significant discoveries in his time, chose a methodology, a philosophy, and that is to chase alteration. Some big uranium deposits have been found by, quote unquote, chasing alteration. So our goal was to find that. We found the hematite last year. We found evidence, obviously, that uranium has moved through that, and that was a big deal. This year, our goal was to get into the clays. You can picture a bullseye. The outer ring of the bullseye would be your hematite. The inner ring would be the clays, and the bullseye itself is the uranium deposit or the mineralization. So this year we drilled into the clays, through the hematite into the clays. The dravite, elite, these are important materials. For example, fishing prior to hitting their big hole recently, fishing F3, their new name, they ran into dravite. So we're excited that we've seen this. We're waiting for analytical results. Want to know what the uranium content is in this in the clays, but we've got several zones of clay now within this large hematite package, so things are progressing, and for some people it doesn't progress fast enough, but we're only 30-40 holes into what could be a big it's a 25,000 hectare package with 35 kilometers of target zone. So it's taking some time, but we're seeing the right stuff at the right time, and that's really, if you're paying attention to how these things come to fruition, this is what you want to see.
And one great thing about being in the Athabasca Basin of Saskatchewan, it is the world's leading source of high-grade uranium. So you're in a great place. It currently supplies about 20% of the world's uranium, but at the same time, you can't be drilling all year round.
Correct.
And that's why sometimes shareholders like, hey, speed this up, but you're driven by weather. What does the next, few months look like now that we're getting into the spring and so on and so forth?
Yeah, well, obviously you hit that nail on the head, and that we have a short drill window in the western Athabasca, and that has to do with weather, but it also has to do with respecting local communities and their right to fish, hunt, and caribou herds move through. There's recreational use of the ground in the summer, and it's not ideal to be a disruptive force at that time. It has an impact on the local community. So we're very cognizant of that. That can change upon significant discovery. Sneak in a few helicopter holes in the summer after that happens, but at this point, again, we have that short window. It is the reality of working in specific parts of the basin, and you just have to live with it.
Within that short window, how much drilling do you expect to do, and what does the cadence look like in terms of drilling results come out, drilling results coming out? What does a ballpark look like?
Yeah, so typically we drill, as you've seen, road prep starts in December. We drill January, February, and into March, wrap it up by April. Then you've got May, June, as you wait out the analytical results. So that's typically our window, how things go. We're in the phase now. We're waiting for the results. We should get them sometime in May, maybe early June. Sometimes these things drag on. But we're hopeful, and that's where the next round of news comes in, because that's one of the reasons why we made the acquisition we did.
Yeah, I'm assuming your investors, especially the large institutional investors that believe in East Preston, everyone's kind of sitting on pins and needles now for this next round of results. I know you can't give us any projection in advance, but do you have reason to feel really confident that it's going to be that the results be to your expectations, to your liking?
Look, the main thing was to hit the clays, and specifically, as I mentioned, dravite. I mean, these are serious indicators we're in the right neighborhood. And we've talked about it before. I'm not a hunter, but if I'm hunting for bear and I step in a big pile of bear crap, that's hot bear crap, I know the bear's in the neighborhood. That's kind of what we're doing.
I love the analysis.
Well, it's simple and gives you the point. It may not be the most appropriate, but at the end of the day, we're really that's what it is. I mean, we're looking for evidence of mineralization where the uranium. We have everything telling us that uranium has moved through this system and it's dropped somewhere. Where did it drop? You look for the graphites, you look for the conductor packages, then you look for the broken ground, you look for the hematite, you look for alteration. So that ground is softer, and it's typically where it pools, where you find uranium pooling. So we're finding all of those things. At some point, we're going to have to run into it. I guess our biggest conundrum is the hematite alteration packages are huge. The targeting, we've got a lot of targets, and these deposits aren't necessarily, they don't have big footprints. So we've talked about it before. You can find a 200 million pound deposit that has a 90 meter or less footprint at the surface.
Yeah, it's diabolical.
They're vertically aligned. So, you can easily be doing 100 meter, 150 meter spacing on a drill program in a target area. You can easily step over these things. But that's the nature of the game. That's why I try to caution people, be patient. If it were easy, everyone would be doing it, announcing discoveries left, right, and center. Doesn't happen that fast. For example, F3 fishing, we had a piece of that Patterson Lake North project back in 2017. We owned 10% of it. The market was horrible. We couldn't raise money, and there was cash calls to maintain that 10%. At the time, we made the decision not to pursue that 10%. It was only 10%, and there was no way for us to increase that allocation of the project. So we walked. And that was 2017-18. Here we are in 2023, and they had their discovery hole. So I'm not suggesting it's going to take us 5 years at East Preston, but keep that in mind. Don't give up on that horse on the back stretch. Watch Secretariat. Go watch that video of Secretariat, and you can see what can happen to it.
Hey, if it was that easy, I'd be out in the West Athabasca Basin right now, looking for it too. So I think most people are patient, Alex, and the money that you've attracted is patient money, right? These institutions aren't flippers. They want you to move it along, but they're not looking to flip for a nickel either, right?
No, I mean, I can't emphasize more how this is going according to Trevor's plan. When he came on board with Azincourt, he laid out a plan, and we're doing it. We're executing the plan. We're drilling. We're meeting the expectations of each round, pushing the project forward incrementally, in a positive direction. If we didn't hit any clays in this round, yeah, I'd scratch my head a little bit and we go back to the drawing board, but that wasn't the case. And so
Nice.
now we're going to hone in on those clay areas and continue to do.
Let's talk about the macro before I move on to your lithium option, because that's exciting also.
Yeah.
I said at the in my intro, Sprott Asset Management CEO Ciampaglia there said that unless uranium prices move to 75 to $100 a pound range, and we're sitting at 50-ish, give or take,
Yeah.
there'll be a supply shortage. What do you think of his analysis? What do you think of the macro picture for supply, demand, all of it for uranium?
Yeah, well, who am I to refute what the CEO of Sprott might say? But we've been hearing this for years. There has been a looming supply-demand scenario that back in 2018 we knew was coming, when things were starting to show up. And as soon as you start to see the increased number of builds in the pipeline for nuclear reactors, countries coming online again, Germany and Japan, and you've got it doesn't take a genius to figure out, if there's only a certain amount of apples in the world, and if everybody starts eating apples, well, you're going to have a supply problem. So we have an issue here, and with COVID and low prices and mine shutdowns and no real massive discoveries coming online, and then you've got what's happening with the Soviet, the Russian bloc. You've got problems over there, and some of those, the pipeline is shut down from that side of the world. Yeah, it makes sense. There will be a rubber band snapping. Now, I've said this, if you saw an interview with me in 2018, I thought the rubber band was going to snap a lot sooner than it has. And we saw a little tease back in August of 2021. You saw a lot of interest when the funds, the Yellow Cake and Sprott, they were buying physical uranium and storing it. And that was driving the price a little bit higher. And you saw the equities take off in August of 21, and it was a sentiment-fueled rally that we could have any time. There's a macro picture that we know is it's affecting the markets in a negative way. We've got inflation and recession and war and bank failures and you name it. Right now, there's a lot of money on the sidelines.
That affects the stock side of things, but that does
100%.
impact the energy side of things.
No,
So
but
sooner or later, those
does.
are gonna align.
Oh, 100%. Where I'm going there is a lot of capital is tied up on the sidelines and not ready to deploy. But we can see this sort of change coming. It'll happen again like it did in August of 21. Sentiment will come in like a big wave, and away we go again. So, we have to be patient, get the work done, stay to our plan, make some adjustments along the way, read capital. But, at the end of the day, I think the fundamentals always win.
Yeah, I think it's important for everyone to remember you're building into a multi-decade bull paradigm shift for uranium. So if it takes an extra year or two, obviously we all want to be faster. If it takes an extra couple of years to get it right, find it, target it, get it right, then hey, we'll all be happy well after that.
Right.
So in previous interviews, Alex, we'd probably stop there and say, okay, great. Macro looks great. We're waiting for East Preston drill results. They're going to be coming out in May, June, and we'll see in a next 3-4 weeks. But now, part two, you've optioned the Big Hill Lithium project.
Yeah.
Right. What I want to talk about first, I think a lot of people didn't pick up on the press release, is the pedigree that comes from the group you acquired it from. You just didn't acquire. There's some George who is has a decent piece of property somewhere, said, hey, Alex, throw me some cash in stock and, take a shot. Let's see if we got something here. Let's talk about that first, because I thought that was something that was overlooked. I think people really need to understand.
Yeah, no, astute as always, George. Give you credit for reading the release and catching that. So the important thing here is we've been looking, we've made no secret of the fact that we've been looking for projects to add to our exploration portfolio that will give us the ability to do work outside of that aforementioned East Preston window, which is quite small. So we were looking, and then this project through mutual contacts came our way. And you mentioned the people involved. The group, some of the people involved in the private company that we optioned this package from are were intimately involved in the merger that created Alchem, which is the fourth or fifth largest lithium company in the world. So, you know,
Wow.
some extreme credibility, people who've had success in exploration and management of lithium assets on a big stage. Extreme success. I mean, Australian companies that formed Alchem, you can look it up. So Nick Rowley and some geologists, they're involved here. And we're happy to have partnered with them. They're gonna work with us and help us at the project ground. And that's really good news, because you know you got to look at it from a, let's just be logical. That was a $6 billion merger with Alchem. You'd think that'd be enough for the principal people involved to go spend the rest of their life on a beach in the Bahamas. And who knows, they may be doing that. But
I bet you they did, and they got
yeah,
bored. They said, "Hey, let's just
well,
do it again
yeah,
because there's only so many pina
right.
coladas I can drink for the rest of my
Yeah,
life, right?"
yes. So using just a logical, you know, extrapolation here, they've made a fortune. They've done well in this business, and you know, they found some ground in Newfoundland that they like. This project is just south of the Kraken
Right.
discovery, which is the Sokoman Benton partnership, and that's an
Just
impactful
five
discovery.
kilometers, just 5 kilometers south.
Yeah, we're real close. And so we've got multiple targets. Project hasn't necessarily really ever been worked for lithium, which is the case in Newfoundland for a lot of ground. We like the geology; it passes the sniff test. There's pegmatites everywhere. There's pegmatites south. We know how these pegmatite swarms work, how dikes are created, and how you're looking for specific things. We have every reason to believe that we're going to find success on this Big Hill project. Again, it's grassroots, but it's coming. It's been vetted by some very sharp people, and it's in the right space.
They're not going to
And
waste their time. They would not have wasted their
no,
time if it was just, you know, hey,
no.
go dig a hole
Well,
and see what.
and the
They're not going
main
to throw
thing here,
spaghetti wall and see what sticks, right,
no, and
Alex?
the main thing you have to realize is that these uranium or these lithium swarms, these dikes, these pegmatites, generally where there's some lithium over here, there's usually lithium over there. It doesn't know property boundaries. And you have to get into the geology, and we really like what we're seeing. So we're excited about it. It's a cheap deal for us. It's not a killer. It's not a backbreaker. It's not costing us millions of dollars.
In fact, you don't have to
And
go raise any money to
oh,
start your work. It's not like you got to go raise fresh money. You've got the balance sheet to get into
yeah,
it, right?
well, yeah, we listen. We blew through our flow through capital these last two drill programs, so we could use a little flow. But nevertheless, that's just me being completely open. But you know, look, we're going to spend 250 grand here in the next month and a half, 2 months. We're going to be on the ground that fast. So that means news flow in the traditionally dark period of summer months for Azincourt. And you know, we're looking at increasing our knowledge of the targets on the ground and further vectoring towards where we want to put drill holes. And that's going to happen immediately. For us, that's exciting.
Yeah, and that's what I love about this acquisition. First, diversification, because obviously East Preston is very prospective and things are
Yeah,
great, but you don't want to be a one-trick pony. So a diversification, even geography. One is in Saskatchewan, the other one's in Newfoundland, right?
yeah,
So hey,
yeah,
that
correct.
way. Two, it's in a great location, 5 kilometers south of Kraken. It's got great
Yeah,
pedigree,
yeah,
and you're going to be on the ground pretty soon. It sounds like so. And I'm
correct.
assuming, correct me if I'm wrong, but Southwest Newfoundland, so you can be on the ground for quite a while
Yes.
into the fall, late,
Yep.
early winter, right?
Yeah.
So the
Yeah.
news
Got a
cycle will
lot
no
of
longer stop for Azincourt.
it's the opposite of the Saskatchewan situation where we need ice and snow and cold weather. You know, in Newfoundland where we are here, we get 7-8 months of weather we can get on the ground and do the work, and it's accessible. I mean, there's some heli supported targets on the property as well. One thing I want to mention is, I had a couple people reach out and say, "So you're chasing lithium now? Are you changing the company?" No. When I got
No,
involved in 2017, we changed the company from Azincourt Uranium to Azincourt Energy. We picked up a lithium
good call.
project in 2018. We ran with that lithium project into 2019. The only reason we walked away from it was the forthcoming drill permits in Manitoba never came, or they came way late. So we didn't stick around on that, but recently we had a project package in Peru that had some lithium numbers on it. We've walked from that project because we would rather focus our efforts in Canada than Peru. We don't have to get into the specifics of that, but anybody.
Well, look at what just happened in Chile last week, right? Just
nationalization. Yeah, you never know what's going to happen down there, and I've had some involvement. I had some involvement with Peruvian with companies exposed in Peru that had some issues. So, not that we're against Peru, but listen, it's a lot easier for us to work our own backyard, less issues, easier capital, and closer to home. So
I think investors, Alex, correct me if I'm wrong. I think major investors are going to refocus their efforts on Canada, because you had Mexico talk about privatizing. You got Chile now privatizing its lithium, and they're not the first two. So it's almost like, who's the next domino that's going to fall once some big lithium finds are made? So in Canada, there's no concern that the Newfoundland government or the Canadian government or the Saskatchewan government is going to come and privatize once you've gone through the effort of finding.
No worries there.
Big
what we're really trying to do is get ahead of the game and get into what will become a camp, a lithium camp. So you see what happened up near Corvette and PMET there, and in Quebec, and then the James Bay region, and then you've got Northern Ontario that's got some hot spots, and now Newfoundland. And again, you have to remember that this is how these things cycle. We can look at Newfoundland. Everyone has Newfoundland on their radar as a gold province now, but that wasn't the case until Newfound Gold makes a generational discovery. The same thing, who was looking at James Bay for lithium until PMET makes that Corvette discovery. So you've got all these sort of, these things can happen. You don't live in a country that's been so overexplored that you wonder where things might be hiding. So we look at Newfoundland, not a lot of lithium exploration has gone on there. The geology is right. The pegmatites exist. And now we're going to get into that phase. And I think,
Kraken is already, kind of cracked the door open, and now you're there. So Alex, what I love about this, I'm going to be a little selfish, is that usually, I love doing these interviews with you because you really articulate well. But, in the past, we'd almost have to kind of wait for East Preston and kind of go into a quiet period. Now, I'm going to get the privilege of, it sounds like we're at the end of April now. So it sounds like May, June, July, August, for the foreseeable future, you and I are going to be talking a lot, man. Yeah, no, I'm excited. I mean, look, it's not like we were chasing this. We've been looking for a lithium project that meets it checks all the boxes for quite some time. But for the reasons mentioned here today on this interview, you can see why we made the deal. And I think it's a great second project, a great parallel focus for the company. It's in the alternative energy space. That's what we do. That's our mission statement. Our mission statement hasn't changed. In fact, it's more applicable now than it ever was. Buddy, can't wait to have you back. Congratulations on the acquisition of Big Hill, and can't wait to start getting some results back for East Preston in May, June. So until then, nice acquisition here to diversify the company, to move it forward, and we'll celebrate that. Yeah, appreciate that, George. Always a pleasure to talk to you, and I'll be back with some good news before too long. That sounds like Arnold there. I'll be back. I'll be back. Yeah. You've been watching Arnold Kleinman. Yeah, thank you. Thankfully, Alex is good. But Arnold, I don't know if I would live with that name, but that's no. But just a good play on words there. Thank you. Yeah, thanks, buddy. And for everybody home, if you've been watching or listening by podcast on Spotify, Google, Apple, your favorite podcast platform, it's been to Alex Kleinman, President CEO of Azincourt Energy, trades in Canada, AAZ, for avenging the S, AZURF. Guys, if you're a believer in the paradigm shift coming in clean tech, renewable energy, you know that uranium and lithium are two massive components about that. It's very, very rare. In fact, we'll talk about another time, Alex, where you find companies that have both of those under one umbrella. Azincourt is one of those. Do your due diligence on Agoracom, get to the company's profile page, and then once you're done there, head over to the Azincourt website, do your deep dive due diligence. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day. See you next time. Hey guys, the video's over, but don't forget to help your company by liking it and even leaving a comment below. And then don't forget to help yourself by subscribing to our YouTube channel so you never miss another great Agoracom small cap video.